Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zor Desaling. Thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. The bilateral relationship between Ethiopia and the United States of America, which has a long history, has a better chance of getting stronger and stronger. The president of Haromaya University, Jamal Yusuf, foresees the relationship between the two countries, which had been stagnant due to the war in the northern part of Ethiopia, has restored to strengthen again due to the peace agreement reached in Pretoria. Johannes van Town has the following account. Take a look.
The bilateral relationship between Ethiopia and the United States of America, which has a long history, has a better chance of getting stronger and stronger. The president of Haromaya University, Jamal Yusuf, foresees the relationship between the two countries has started to strengthen again due to the peace agreement reached in Pretoria. President Jamal Yusuf also says the relationship between the two countries is not imaginary but practical. For this, he raises the relationship between Haromaya University and the University of Oklahoma.
If we look back to history, U.S. and Ethiopia is very much attached. I don't need to cite imaginary example. I can cite practical example how Haromaya happened to be Haromaya. Haromaya was established based on partnership between U.S. and Ethiopian government under the leadership of Oklahoma State University.
The president hopes the strengthening of bilateral relations between the two countries has come to passing all the challenges encountered so far between the two countries.
I happened to be in Oklahoma 3 weeks back, and that was just next day after the peace deal, and I could see many bright faces and support, encouragement for the step we have taken from government side. So I see very bright and promising future with U.S. partners. We are actually related with universities and the donors such as the Gates Foundation, USA Rockefeller Foundation, and others, because we have a number of projects with them. So it's a great hope and promising for me.
Amidst of the promising situations between the two, the United States has still blocked Ethiopia from the AGOA agreement is an indication that there remains more effort to strike the equilibrium.
Senior researcher and African Affairs Director General at the Foreign Affairs Institute, Dr. GERD, told the ETV that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam could contribute to the second economic and political liberation of Africa on top of creating regional integration. The critical problem on the Abai River is illogical, wrong mythical narration that needs to be replaced by scientific understanding. Tugusunisa has more on this. Take a look.
Catastrophic flooding and expected earthquake, dam collapse were among the unsubstantial wrong narratives that have been released regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD. In spite of all these unfounded narratives, it was able to fill the GERD for the third round that put no riparian country in any sort of danger in relation to construction of GERD. While talking to ETV, senior researcher and African Affairs Director General at Foreign Affairs Institute, Dr. GERD underscored that the critical problem of the Abai River is wrong mythical narrative that needs to be replaced by scientific understanding.
So the critical problem, which is really embedded in the Nile, as I have mentioned, is the myth, and the myth has to be replaced by science, and there has to be scientific understanding, and science can reign in the Nile. And if science runs in the Nile, there has to be a move towards fraternity, and that fraternity is what I am referring to, pan-Nihilism. But that pan-Nihilism should not be a very hegemonic pan-Nihilism, as has been experienced by Egypt. Egypt was trying to bring the whole riparian states under its own umbrella, under its own flag. And this is an old project. This old project is not important, but we have to have a democratic pan-Nihilism. So I think if we move towards this fraternity, and if we move toward this, of course, exchange of comparative advantage, if there had been an arrangement of exchange of comparative advantage, the Nile is not a problem. The Nile is a blessing.
He reiterated that the construction of GERD does not necessarily mean creating water thirst in Egypt, adding that the dam could contribute to the second economic and political liberation of Africa on top of creating regional integration, he noted.
I am referring even the GERD could contribute to the second liberation of Africa.
Oh.
The second liberation of Africa is, of course, it goes to the economic front. And it would contribute to the industrialization of Africa because, of course, the most important objective of the GERD is energy production. And through this energy marketing, that Ethiopia could contribute, as it has been contributing in Adwa,
Right.
for the first liberation of Africa, for the decolonization of Africa, for the political liberation of Africa. Of course, the GERD could contribute for the second liberation of Africa by heralding Africa's era towards industrialization. Yeah, what I'm referring there is the rivers could be means for the ideals of Pan-Africanism, you see, for continental integration. So we have rivers who are connecting many African states. One river is connecting 11 states in the Nile case.
Right.
The Senegal River, these all African rivers, prominent African rivers, they are connecting one state with another.
Exactly.
So they are means they are ligaments, they are connectors of Africans. So we can design a river-led integration, continental integration.
The scholar went on saying that rather than staying fixed to colonial type of economy, construction of GERD has economic transformative impact throughout the region, creating room for regional integration.
The Entoto Observatory Space Science Research Center is constructing a center of which can show Milky Way galaxies model. The Ethiopian Space Science and Geospatial Institute has allocated over 700 million birr for the cause. Under the construction, the under construction center is instrumental to beef up capacities of Ethiopian scientists in the space exploration fields. The Entoto Observatory Space Science Research Center is an astronomical observatory station located in Mount Entoto, close to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The Afar Region Culture and Tourism Bureau confirmed that tourism flow, which was dwindling due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the conflict, has recorded imperative resuscitation in the past 6 months. Afar Region Culture and Tourism Bureau head Ahmed Abdul Qadir told Fana Broadcasting Corporate that since tourism is dependent on peace, the flow of tourists slowed down from 2019 to the end of 2022 following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the conflict in the northern part of Ethiopia. The official said that the flow of tourists, which hit rock bottom last year, has recorded a significant revival in the last 6 months. The region's main tourist destinations for visitors are Dalol, Ertale, Afdera Lake, and Alalu, Badfel. The Ethiopian Ministry of Education says it is crucial for the education and training system to recover from the breakdown. This is geared towards the new generation to develop into a capable global competitor based on knowledge. After holding discussions with academics on the new education and training policy draft, Minister of Education, Professor Birhanu Negga, indicated the topics included in the proposal will be effectively aligned with the future course. Kasam Jani has more on that. Take a look.
The Minister of Education, Birhanu Negga, noted the draft policy tabled for discussion. It being subject to numerous consultations and that it addressed matters that were anticipated to result in fundamental changes in the education industry. He also noted that formulating a policy on its own would not be sufficient to address the problems with the educational system, calling all the concerned bodies to join hands for the implementation. The minister did that by taking into consideration suggestions made in the roadmap for education and training. Policy has been developed in a way that may address issues in the education sector and adhere to international standards.
Issues rose in the new education and the training policy draft may result in a profound transformation of the education industry. The proposed policy comprises topics that have been explored previously and are believed to fundamentally alter the educational landscape. Making a policy to repair the flaws in the educational system on its own won't result in any change. The policy is designed to address the issues in the education sector by taking into account the recommendations made in the education and training map. Programs, legal structures and mechanisms for policy enforcement will be developed in the future. Everyone must take part in the policy's implementation, not just the government.
Theodros Sharagat, the Executive Director of Curriculum Development for the Ministry of Education, delivered the key points of the proposed policy during the event, noting a lot has been remaining when it comes to utilizing trained labor that could be an economic resource.
The new educational and training strategy was developed as a result of research into the new educational roadmap created in 2018 and the 2010 Ethiopian fiscal year. The key points made during the event were that the serious important issues are the absence of ethics in the industry and of high-quality education throughout the whole education sector. Therefore, a variety of actions have been conducted to address these issues. The year 1986's policy foundation has its own set of issues and successes. No matter the approach, there are serious issues with it, especially when it comes to capitalizing on skilled labor that might be a resource for the economy.
Participants in a consultation forum at the event include representatives from the House of People's Representatives, the Ministry of Labor and Skills, regional education bureaus, higher education institutions, teachers' associations, the Education Advisory Council, various professional associations, and other partner institutions.
Some 60 civil society organizations have traveled to Mekelle, Tigray to assess the progress of humanitarian aid delivery and reconstruction and rebuilding efforts in the region. The delegation of the organizations are expected to discuss with peer organizations operating in the Tigray region on ways of fast-tracking humanitarian assistance and reconstruction of institutions and facilities affected by the war. The trip, organized by the Ethiopian Civil Societies Organizations Councils, will also explore ways to speed up humanitarian aid delivery and rehabilitation efforts in war-affected areas in northern parts of the country. You're watching Addis News Hour, and we have arrived for the segment of what's been trending over the past 24 hours. As I'm joined by our staff member, Tugusa Nisa. Good morning, Tugusa.
Good morning, too.
So, as we have to cut to the chase towards what's been trending over the past 24 hours, I think we should be commencing with regards to the farewell of the President of the Supreme Court, Maza Shanafi, and of course, with more of that, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018, a number of reforms took place, and among these reforms were to involve a number of women in the cabinet, in the administration, and Maza Shanafi was one of the female that were member of the cabinet as president of the Federal Supreme Court. And after Maza came to office, a number of positive changes were registered under her administration. And this is and yesterday, when farewell was bid to the president of the Federal Supreme Court, Maza Shanafi, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed stated that to the outgoing president and deputy president of the Federal Supreme Court. He thanked them for their service to the nation, wishing them well in their path ahead. And the soon Federal Supreme Court president, former Federal Supreme Court president, on her part stated that on her departure as a first woman president of the Federal Supreme Court of Ethiopia, that the Federal Supreme Court, that she hoped to inspire women and young girls as they continue to assure her, and she says, adding that she has served her utmost integrity into the best of her knowledge and public interest as well. And the second one is International Committee of the Red Cross Society Ethiopia announced that another convoy arrived in Tigray regional state, in which 4 truckloads of medical supplies donated by Ministry of Health for distribution and healthcare to the region. This includes medical equipments, medicines such as insulin, antibiotics, and maternal and child health commodities. This is what has been trending for the past 24 hours.
Thank you very much for the brief illustration, Tigist.
Thank you so much for having me.
Over 100 anchor companies from 33 countries have come together to display their products and services in the 4th International Trade Exhibition in Addis Ababa. The International Trade Exhibition has kicked off in Addis Ababa on the previous day. Haptam Ashagri has more on that. Take a look.
Over 100 international companies are attending in the 4th International Trade Exhibition in the metropolis today. Speaking on the occasion, State Minister for Trade and Regional Integration, Kasan Gonfes, said the 4th International Trade Exhibition is playing paramount importance to strengthen business-to-business relations among companies. By using Ethiopia's favorable investment atmosphere, Kasan calls upon anchor international companies to do business in Ethiopia.
In the past decade, Ethiopia, being one of the fastest growing economies in the world, is endowed with diverse agroecology and a favorable climate suitable for both agriculture and industrial production in a considerable amount to meet the national and international market requirements. I am pleased to recognize top industry professionals who are playing a key role in achieving our development agendas. In this exhibition, a focus has been given to bring together those companies and businesses working in the construction of decent housing and innovative in the various sectors.
Talking to TV English, Expo Group East African Regional Director Duncan Noeje for his part said the exhibition is important to create and expand business.
The most important for us to have this exhibition is to bring the latest technology and to advance and to bring in the low cost. Instead of people traveling out of Ethiopia, let them come and invest here, tap the market, get employment, and improve the lives of the Ethiopians.
According to Jade, the opening of the exhibition is also accelerating regional integration by fostering economic integration among African countries.
Africa is a growing market now. We want Africa to be the next frontier. Instead of you going to Europe, we have companies from Europe coming to invest in Africa. We have our young enterprises who are growing. Once they know the technology, we establish that, and we have a joint venture. We're going to have what we call employment, which is going to create awareness, and we should have the latest technologies here in Africa.
Over 100 of international companies based from 33 countries are displaying their products and services for 3 consecutive days in Addis Ababa.
Revenue Minister Ainalam Nuguse has received a delegation of the International Monetary Fund Regional Technical Assistance Center at her office. Ainalam and the delegation led by Edina Moshi explored ways on how to bolster cooperation between the government of Ethiopia and East Afritech. During the discussion, the two sides focused on how to help the government build its capacity of income generation and achieve its development goals in line with the ongoing reforms. German and French leaders pledged to strengthen EU and continue to back Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz have shown a united front after the war in Ukraine exposed diverging approaches on key issues. Shagai Mata has more from Al Jazeera and DW.
The friendship between France and Germany formally started exactly 60 years ago.
The Treaty on Franco-German Friendship, known as the LC Treaty, signed in 1963 by German Federal Chancellor Adenauer and France's President de Gaulle, laid the foundation of the relationship forged between France and Germany. In 2019, the 56th anniversary of the LC Treaty, the President of the French Republic and the German Federal Chancellor signed a new treaty on Franco-German cooperation and integration in Aachen. Emmanuel Macron and Olaf Scholz met in a bid to improve strained relations after a series of disagreements over defense and energy policy in the wake of the war in Ukraine that affect policymaking in the rest of the European Union. The alliance between France and Germany is often described as the engine of the European Union.
The two countries may have different approaches, but in the end, it's only when they agree that the 27 can agree. So we are in that process at the moment on different issues. One is obviously the Ukraine war and how to support Ukraine. And we've seen in recent days that Chancellor Scholz has been under a lot of criticism for his reluctance to send tanks to Ukraine.
French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz pledged to strengthen the European Union and reinvigorate a bilateral relationship that has been strained by the fallout from the Russian invasion of Ukraine and ensuring energy crisis. After an event to mark the 60th anniversary of the LC Treaty, which ushered in a new era of friendship between the two countries, the German Chancellor still made a commitment that he will give Ukraine what it wants.
Constantly expanded our supplies with very effective weapons that are already available today. And we've always closely coordinated all these decisions with all our important allies and friends, with France, for example, with the US, with other major countries in Europe, and of course, with all those who participate in this discussion.
Emmanuel Macron says France has not ruled out sending its tanks, but needs to consider 3 criteria.
D'une part, comme on l'a toujours fait depuis le début,
firstly, as we have been able to do since the beginning, that it does not escalate. Secondly, that it could bring real effective support to our Ukrainian friends. And for this, we must consider the capacity to maintain them in operational conditions and training.
Both leaders reaffirmed a commitment to support Ukraine as long as necessary.
After 3 years of tough coronavirus restrictions, China has celebrated the Lunar New Year with tens of millions of people traveling to their hometowns. They are also gathering in public spaces, enjoying festivities that were an annual highlight but were put on hold for the past few years due to COVID. Gosha Meliso has more from Al Jazeera and TRT World. Take a look.
The year 2023 in the Gregorian calendar is designated by Chinese the Year of the Rabbit. The rabbit is the fourth animal in the Chinese zodiac and represents grace, beauty, mercy and good luck. Rabbits are also associated with the moon because of the mythical jet rabbit who lives there. Chinese across the world are celebrating the Lunar New Year and beginning of the Year of Rabbit with dragon dancing, temple fairs and red lanterns. It is the first time since the beginning of the pandemic people are allowed to gather and enjoy these Chinese traditions. In Beijing, many could for hours to party at Lama Temple, the most important Buddhist sites in the capital city. It is reopened after strict coronavirus control kept it shut for 3 years.
I am really very happy. I haven't seen such a busy scene with so many people for a long time. This is the real atmosphere of the Lunar New Year.
After all the restrictions were lifted, people became more relaxed. We went through a lot of difficult times during the pandemic.
Dragon dance by the villagers is one of the most important parts to mark the Chinese Lunar Year.
One of the challenges is to make sure the bolts are secured and the segments are firmly connected, or else the dragon would come apart during the performance. Also, the dancers must stand in stagger positions. One person stands on the left side and the next one on the right, so on and so forth, in order to keep the balance.
The lengths and spectacles of the dragon is a testimony of the entire village.
I was amazed. The dragon extended for 100 meters. I saw plenty of young people in the group. As a young man myself, I'm proud to see our intangible cultural heritage being observed and passed on. As for my New Year wish, I was married last year, and I hope I can have a lovely baby in the year 2023. And I wish our people and nation grow ever more prosperous.
Last year, festival banquets were forbidden. Now hotels and restaurants are booked out. Others are feast at home enjoying handmade dumpling noodles. Families kept apart by years of travel bans finally been reunited.
I'm very happy to see my son and his family. This is our first reunion in 3 years.
After the reopening this year, everyone is eager to go home. After all, we haven't seen our families for so long, so we thought we'd hurry home soon. At home, we can see parents, see relatives, and then reunite as soon as possible. That's it.
Many believe that the days of coronavirus lockdowns are behind them. Experts fear coronavirus will spread as millions travel to China for the new year, particularly in rural areas, and the government is rushing to boost resources.
We've also provided health services for key groups by offering health kits to them. So far, a total of 57.17 million packages have been distributed across the country.
The Lunar Year is the most important festival for China, celebrated after 3 years COVID restriction.
And now let's take a recap of the top stories once again.